Welcome to the Digital Remodeler podcast. So glad you've chosen to join us again today. And joining me once again is Phil Risher with Phlash. And Phil, thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Really excited about this conversation.
Yeah, so last time we were on, obviously, we were talking about a lot of the shifts in search, and that's been probably about 3 or 4 months ago. And since then, the world has just been like upside down, and you and I have been making a lot of podcast interviews and webinars on this topic. And so we're going to talk today about something really I think is going to be startling to a lot of people. We've entitled this one, Your Website is Going Away, and I've put some exclamation marks behind it. So let's dive into this. You had a very alarming video you put out. It's got a lot of views on the fact that really websites are going to be obsolete before people know it. And so let's just dive right into that. Let's just alarm our audience here really quickly and start off the conversation with this topic.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that was, and I would love to get your thoughts on this as well, about like 2 months ago, Google changed the Google search engine results page and Google search page to say AI mode. So before, when you search something on Google, you could click search and you get those blue links. And now it has AI mode where you click AI mode and it actually goes to like, a Gemini type product where you can interact with it more of an agent style. And so with that big shift, it's like, well, how are people going to find your business anymore if they're not going and reading blue links or going to Google Business Profiles and that kind of stuff? And that was kind of the first alarm bells for me. That was like, wait a sec. What about ads? All these things that Google's like, this is changing. So that was the biggest shift that first happened. Then the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, said that 2027 is the year of the agents. And he's actively saying that agents are going to be driving what's next. And then I saw Google wrote out what's called Gemini Spark, which is their agent for doing things for people's behalf, like researching and interacting. I'm like, okay, well, if no one is even going to websites anymore and AI and agents are just doing stuff, like, do websites even matter? So that was kind of the first part. I'm curious, like, what do you think about that? Or like, because I'm sure you're seeing the same stuff.
That's it. Well, you set the table for me. So, we started watching Pichai's interview with Stripe that he did in March. And in that interview, it was an hour-long interview, he mentioned websites twice. And the only thing he mentioned is they were going to be a data layer for AI agents, and that AI agents were going to really be the premise of search anymore. That what search was going to become was an agent management system, and he gave the scenario of travel. And I thought that was really interesting. And so after I watched that interview, we actually introduced a white paper called Silence of the Agents. And it was a white paper talking about how search was changing. And then the other thing that we watched, Phil, is we waited for the I/O 2026 rollout. And so we paid close attention to what was Google going to roll out at I/O 2026. And just what you talked about, Spark was rolled out. And then one of the things that they said at I/O 2026 was that they were going to build Spark into the Chrome browser.
Exactly.
And it literally was 3 days later. I had my team in a training session, and I was demonstrating how the search box had changed. And the search box flipped us over into a new Chrome browser with Spark infused into it and flipped us into agent mode. And so I said, this is how this is going to work.
Exactly.
And so you could already see the movement there. And so that's what we began to see happen, because one of my team members even asked me, well, people don't know, what agents even are.
Yeah.
And I said, here's what Google's going to do. They're going to have you using agentic systems without you even knowing
it. Exactly. Because basically they know that that's the future, but they can't rip the Band-Aid for all these old people that have never done this. They're like, oh my gosh. But then now they realize, oh, I can have a conversation with thing. I can upload pictures. Like, this is so cool. And it gives me information. And then it's now the new cool thing. But they had to slowly layer in, like, first they did some AI overviews, like, oh, here's AI and I can interact with it. And then they're like, oh, wait, now it's going to AI mode. It's like slowly dripping it opposed to just ripping the Band-Aid off right away.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And here's what most people don't realize, but they're already getting used to it, is you are now seeing all of these AI agent pieces coming in. So the next piece of this that they rolled out was Ask YouTube, Ask Maps. So all of these agentic pieces being rolled out across the Google universe. So we are now getting conditioned to where we are interacting with the Spark agent across all of the data layers in the Google universe. And so we are being conditioned to not the blue links anymore, but now we ask the agent brings us back the recommendations. And of course, that's been our message to our audience is, are you now trustworthy enough
Yes.
that Google will recommend you as part of that agentic recommendation? And that's the mind shift that the business owner has to make. Is it's no longer about keywords. It's no longer about business near me.
Yeah.
It's about this conversational query that your customer is trying to make, and it's part of a decision process.
Yeah. So right now, what you're describing, I call that as phase 2, which is like probably the next 6 to 12 months, which is an agent on your behalf is doing the research for you, like going to your website, pulling this information. And right now, what we're doing for our clients is like people, okay, they hear you say this, Carl, and they're like, okay, well, what the heck should I be doing to make sure that happens? So what we recommend to our clients is it's not just about ramming keywords or even rankings. It's about answering real customer questions that they are having in conversations. So that way you have the content that's created on all platforms, not just your website, but in social content and all this other stuff. So we actually built an agent that we call him Turner. And what Turner does is he links into like CallRail, What Converts, Go High Level, like these tools. And he listens to the calls. And the calls that are over 3 minutes, he turns them into AEO-optimized blog posts, social posts, and hooks for video content. So now we have this agent that's making content ongoing. And then it allows us to take what the real customer questions are and create content on it so that it can be shown inside of AI search. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, well, I'm paying for some type of like SEO, but like, how do I know that it's actually working? And it's really about answering your customer questions, pricing questions, those types of things. And I think that's the next 6 to 12 months. It gives people the opportunity to create content. They should have been doing it before, but now it's like, you got to do it. Like there's no other option.
Yeah, very, very much so. And we've been really talking to our clients on a similar vein that what we're seeing happen with the AI agent is it's really part of this decision making process. Though what's happening is you're creating the decision loop, if you will, is what you really have to be thinking through. That what that AI agent is doing when you make that search query is it's not just addressing the initial question that the person's asking, but it's looking through what are the likely questions behind that,
Yes.
and analyzing what normally gets asked behind it. And so you as a business owner, when you're thinking about your content strategy, you've got to be thinking about, well, what are the other questions that normally get asked behind it? And I love what you're doing, Phil, in taking those phone conversations. Well, what else do people ask? Well,
Exactly.
they ask this and they ask this, and they're asking pricing questions, and they're asking warranty questions, and they're asking reliability questions, and they're asking discount questions. And what else are they asking?
Yeah. And so the next phase of this is what they talked about, which is the A2A protocol, agent to agent protocol. And the example that they gave was, let's say that Spark wanted to go and interact with a Target's agent or UPS's agent because you were looking for a package. Up until 6 months ago, there was no protocol for agent to agent interactions. It was just each person making their own agents to work inside of their business, like what you mentioned, Ask YouTube, Ask QuickBooks, like they all have different agents of their own. So Google wrote out a protocol that they gave to the Linux Foundation to make it open source. So this was my whole thesis around why websites won't matter, is that if humans aren't going to your website anymore, because we know that no one's clicking on websites because AI is recommending things. But then more importantly, if agents like Spark is going to be going out, to your point, like scheduling your next trip or something like that, what if it could interact with a home service business and schedule a remodeling estimate for them, but never even have to go to their website, but interact with an agent that is educated on all of their things? And this is why I'm like, okay, well, if that is true, which I believe that it's true from what they said, then why would anyone need a website? You would mostly need like a knowledge catalog with a data layer of your website, but then your online booking and all these other things that could happen. And I think that people, it's like foreign to think about and like, oh, AI is going to do this, but how could that not be the case?
Yeah, I think you brought up something really important. You said a term there that I really want the audience to lock into: data layer. And the thing that Google emphasized over and over and over again at I/O 2026, and that Pichai emphasized over and over and over again in his interview, was data layers. Your website is a data layer. Your Google business profile is a data layer. Your YouTube channel is a data layer. Your social media is a data layer. So what is happening is that AI agent is using those data layers to answer questions. It's out there analyzing those data layers. It's collecting the information. And the world we're living in, and I've been telling our audience this on our podcast, my AI agents that I affectionately named Jeeves and Jarvis, since I've been using Jeeves and Jarvis, my website visits are down probably 60 to 70%. They're out doing all my research for me. They book stuff on my calendar. They answer emails. They are doing a lot of things for me daily. And that was the world Pichai described. That is where Google is moving. And the scenario he gave is just that. So I'm looking for a service. One agent is going to go look at the service. One is going to look at my calendar for availability. One is going to ask me which of the credit cards in my Google Wallet do I want to use to pay for it. It is going to be that type of transactional environment. That's what's being set up. So we need to understand that, and it's using data layers then to match up which vendor is the best fit for me based on the information that Google has on both of us, because Google makes their money off of data.
Yeah.
So, Phil, that's really the picture that's being drawn, and we're kind of getting advanced here.
Yeah.
But I really want us to hone in on, so back to, you're the business owner out here, you're listening. What do I do now? Like, what's my next step? And Phil hit it on the head. If you haven't already started building out your content, you need to become a content machine.
Yes.
You've got to start thinking about, what are the questions my best customer is asking today?
Yeah, for sure. There's the piece of this when I shared it on YouTube that I got a lot of questions on, and I made a second video on it, which is what happens to ads. Because Google is literally saying their moneymaker ads on the search engine results page is going away. So then can you run ads in AI mode and then manipulate that of some sort? And I think there's a couple different ways that you could take this, but specifically for local service businesses, there's this business agent lead form conversation that they have rolled out like 6 months ago, and then hasn't really come out yet, but I've seen remnants of like GBP having a knowledge base, and then your Google Business Profile being able to interact in ads, and you can actually open up conversations inside of AI mode. Because people are like, okay, well, if my website doesn't matter, does landing pages matter? How far do you take it? And I believe that like the premise of you clicking on something and going to a landing page is done. And the bigger part to this is like exactly what you just said, Carl, is if you're not creating content now that's unique to your business, Because one thing that we didn't say was that Google Search Console, they specifically said, they put out a white paper about SEO, like does it still matter or not? And what they said was that you want to create non-commodity content. And what non-commodity content is not like 7 reasons why you should do a remodeling project this summer. That's commodity content. Anyone can answer that. And they literally said they want real things like why you should do a sewer inspection in this. Like they literally gave that as an example. So if you're not creating content and if you're building these data layers and eventually ads are going to get to the point where it's interacting with your business based off of this knowledge that it knows, you're going to be just like everyone else. There's no unique thing that is brought for you. And so I know we're kind of like beating people over the head with this, but it's like, this is the biggest pushback that I have. When I was at a home service business 7 years ago, we did no content. And the reason was because we didn't want tire kickers on Facebook. People were not scrolling Instagram to get their air ducts cleaned. All those things were true. And I'm not saying that you need to create content to get likes and shares. I'm saying you need to create content to train AI on your business and to have a knowledge catalog to produce when agents need information about your business. And I think that's the fundamental shift for a lot of business owners, is that it's not about likes and shares or even to get customers. It's to have the knowledge catalog.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to have that knowledge catalog, and you've got to be the expert and authority that Google is recognizing and turning to so that it's continuing to bring you forward. Remember that what we're seeing is Google is looking at who can you trust to bring forward. That's who they're recommending. Who's the trusted expert? And the way you build that trusted expertise is by creating this catalog of knowledge-based information that you are putting out in multiple locations. We talk about the ecosystem. And that ecosystem is you want to be everywhere that your best client is going to be. But we know that Google loves video. YouTube is their child, so you definitely want to be there. They love the social signals. You want to be there. But think about, where is your best customer going to be? And that's really where you want those signals to be. But we also know where Google loves to see those signals. And so you want to be deploying there for sure. But the other thing, too, that comes about, Phil, and you really have tapped into this, is not just that former generic content, 7 steps to blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But setting yourself apart and amplifying your unique expertise, your unique voice, the thing that really differentiates you from every other voice in the marketplace. Because one of the things that even Google talked about is there's so much generic AI content in the marketplace today, that's going to collapse down on itself.
Yeah.
So what you've got to do is amplify your unique skill sets, your unique knowledge, your unique factors that give you credibility and give you the authority that nobody else has.
Yeah, exactly. The unique content piece is probably the biggest differentiator for businesses right now. And the reason, if you're listening to this, a lot of marketing companies start with AI slop. They just say, oh, I need to write some content about, what's going on in fall, about whatever. And if you just go to ChatGPT and write something that everyone already knows, it's just generic stuff. So what you need to do is what we do is start with the customer questions, then have some type of a knowledge base about your business, whether it's like a Notebook LM or Gemini LM or some type of, or Gemini Notebook or whatever it is, some type of a knowledge layer on your business, and create the content. Then you can layer in AI on top of it. But if you start with AI slop, it's not going to help you. It's probably going to hurt you. Like what you're saying, your reputation is going to be like, oh, this is just all slop stuff. And it allows you to create better content when you start with the real customer questions and then layer in your expertise. But a lot of people are like, well, I can't get my technicians to tell me this thing. I'm too busy doing this, all of those things. And you can't make those excuses anymore, because there's a huge land grab with the big companies that are still, it's like the yellow pages. The big companies are still have big Google budgets, a bunch of Google reviews and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, maybe not so much. It's going to be as important over here as it is right now. So there's a big shift there. Did you see the big change that happened with Yelp and OpenAI that just recently partnered?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another video that I just made. It hasn't come out yet, but it's like now ChatGPT is not going to be leveraging your Google Business Profile stuff. It's going to be partnering with Yelp. So then it's like a whole nother almost like way to rank in ChatGPT opposed to Google AI, and they both have 1 billion users and stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You also want to be paying attention to what's happening in the broader landscape. I mean, there's so many moving pieces. But I want to go back to something else you talked about
Yeah.
because Google also told us on the advertising side.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
This one was powerful. That the best way to work their advertising platform going forward into 2027 was answer questions.
Yeah.
Create content and answer questions. And what they really talked about was their demand gen advertising product, which is YouTube based, and of course they're doubling down on Performance Max, which is their cover all their bases. But again, it is all about content, and
Yes.
both of those items, demand gen and Performance Max, are content driven. They want video in there. They want imagery in there. So the real key to advertising, and we're talking about not just Google, Meta's the same way.
Yeah.
Your creatives drive the advertising now. It's not your keywords. It's not any of those types of things. It's your creatives. And so it's still back to content. So we're going to sound like we are beating a dead horse here, but it really is your content creation in this AI driven world that's going to win the game.
Yeah.
And your ability to create unique content, authoritative content, content that answers questions that your consumer is asking is going to be the thing that gives you the competitive edge.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes people ask me, okay, well, like how much content should I be creating? You know, what should I be devoting my time to? Should I hire someone to do that? I recommend that you should at least be making 2 to 3 pieces of content every single week, like even just a video answering a question. And another thing that always comes up is, do I need a whole studio and mic and all this stuff? And it's like, no, in fact, it's even better if you don't have that stuff. If you're on a job site and you just pull out your phone and just say like, hey, this customer just asked me this question, like I'm at their home, you know, that's real. Because right now there's this trust recession that's happening. And it's only going to get worse and worse and worse until the only thing that's real is analog live. And like right now, I'm prioritizing live content over just like even recording things because people still are like, is this real or is it not? How many takes did it take? It's like, if you can do live, it's better. If you can get real in person, it's even better. So I could see a world where it's like you could be live on a job site answering questions and doing stuff and then chop that into content and it's like real, and it's even more engaging than anything that could be pre-scripted or anything like that.
Absolutely. I think, too, one of the things that we need to bring up on this is work smarter, not harder. Repurpose your content. So pull out your smartphone, record that video, then chop that video up, make reels and shorts out of it, take the transcript, make a blog post out of it, make a Google Business Profile post out of it, make social media posts out of it. So don't complicate things, but make sure you repurpose and get lots of mileage out of that content.
Yes.
You're going to see Phil and I are going to take this podcast, and this podcast is going to turn into God knows how much content by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah.
That's working smarter, not harder, but you're going to leverage those things across multiple platforms and get lots of mileage out of it. And again, signals is the name of the game. The Google AI in particular is looking for signals. Spark is looking for how many times is your message, your authority, your brand showing up in how many different places, and is that message consistent in the places that it's showing up.
Yeah. So when we talk to people about this, people usually ask me, okay, well, how do I evaluate performance? Because if it's not keyword rankings anymore and it's not website traffic anymore, how do I know if this is working or not? And so there's 2 metrics that we use, which is share of voice and mention rate. And to your point, Carl, share of voice is how many times on a prompt or a question do you have a share of voice that it might not cite you, but it at least it will pull something that you said. And then mention rate is how many times they actually say like, hey, you should reach out to this company to do that. And this is why you need to be creating and repurposing content on different platforms, because it gives you more share of voice. It might say, here's a video about this, here's an article about this, here's a social post about this. It could be the same three things, but it's on different mediums, and it gives you more share of voice, and also builds more credibility that you're answering it in different ways.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think our viewers need to and listeners need to understand, if you've seen the AI overviews on Google, you'll see the knowledge panels off to the side. So a lot of times, if you've done a good job with this, you're going to get mentioned in the AI overview. And then on the knowledge panel, it might be your YouTube video over there, and then your LinkedIn article over there, and then some other social media. So if you've done a good job over that, you can dominate that entire AI overview to where you are the authoritative source that Google's pulling. And that's really kind of the goal here, is that you have so dominated the ecosystem, you're the authority that they pull, but they're pulling you from multiple locations.
Yeah, exactly. I think if I was going to summarize everything we talked about, it would be you should be creating content based off of real customer questions in order to build trust with AI platforms, because the old way of doing things, which is just trying to jam keywords and get rankings, is pretty much gone. And it's only going to continue to get less and less focused on that and more on trust with these AI platforms.
Absolutely. And I think I would kind of like to close out on this thought too, because I'm still seeing a lot of business owners go through this, and I'm going to call it old school thought process. Everybody wants to spend lots of money for pretty websites. And I don't want to dissuade you from that. People are still going to come to websites. It's not that they're totally going to go away, but don't get hung up on your website being the end all beat all. I had this conversation with a prospect a week ago. Not as many people are going to come to your website as you think they are. And it is not the end decision point for most people, even today. They are going to use it as part of their decision journey, but more than likely it is not going to be the final decision point. And so use it for what it is going to be, make it function for what it needs to function for. But the reality is, zero-click search, the latest numbers we're seeing is about 68% of searches are zero-click, which means the person does the search, they get their search result, and they either do another search or they just move on to something else.
That's right.
They don't even do a website click. They don't click on an ad. They don't do anything. And so that is what the environment looks like today. And so I hate to ruin your day with the fact that that pretty website sits for the most part.
Yeah.
So put it in perspective. That's going to be more of the trend as we move into agentic search. The visitor may not even be a person. It may be an AI agent more often than not. So use it as the data layer that it needs to be to help inform decisions, but don't get so hung up on it that that is where the majority of your business is going to happen. More than likely, it probably isn't. It's going to be part of the decision process. Use it for what it needs to be used for. Make sure it's conversion friendly still. Can people click to call? Can people fill out the form? Can people do what they need to do to transact with you? But make sure that all the other places in the ecosystem are just as transaction friendly. Can people still do business with you from all the other places that AI may be sending them to engage with you? Because in today's world, AI may be sending them to your other online pieces of real estate, and you need to be thinking through that ecosystem. Is all of it conversion friendly, not just the website?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. And I'll add one cherry on top. I was out in Las Vegas doing Jobber podcast, Jobber, the CRM for home service business, and the head of product development was there. And I did an episode like this on their podcast. And I was talking to him about it. And he told me that Jobber, they have online booking, that they are building an app that goes directly into Gemini that will allow people, just like from your Google business profile where you can put a booking link, it's gonna sync up into AI mode. So that way, people, to your point, people are not even going to go to your website. They're going to say, I want to talk to this company. And then it's going to say, here's their online scheduling. You can schedule it right here. And it's going to interact with it and just schedule it for them. They don't have to go anywhere. So, and this is like, a couple months out, 6 months out. So it's definitely changing very fast.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. One other little nugget for our listeners. Google is now having their AI place calls to businesses to make sure those are good numbers. Be sure and answer those calls.
Yeah. It literally, if you were to go to AI mode right now and you were to ask it, it will go and do research for you and then come back and give you the information. Like it will call the business and ask how much does it cost and this kind of things. Like, and it wants you to answer the phone and talk to these AI agents. It's just really wild.
Yeah. Be sure and answer the phone. I can't stress that enough. In today's world, answer your phone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's a good one. So Phil, any final thoughts as we wrap today up?
Yeah. I would say don't get hung up on content is just for likes and shares. Even if you create content and you don't get a ton of views, it's not about that. It's about creating content, one, to train your knowledge base in the future. If you were to have some type of agent for your business that can interact with Spark or other agents. And then also make sure that you don't get hung up on like my website is the bee's knees and everything's going to the website. Like there's a whole nother world out here of agent to agent that we're at that pinnacle point, like Yellow Pages to Google to AI, Agentic. Like there's only times that this happens every 15 to 20 years. And there's a big land grab that's happening for businesses that take advantage of it.
Yeah, most definitely. And Phil, if people want to learn more about you, learn more about Phlash Consulting, where can they do that?
Yeah, so we built this cool agent, as I mentioned. So if you want to check that out, or you're just interested about our business, we work with home service businesses. 1 million to 10 million is our bread and butter. It's flashconsulting.com, PHLASH consulting.com. We give the recipe, sell the cooking, so it's no high pressure thing. We just try to help people.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to the Digital Remodeler. We look forward to having you on our next episode. And Phil, thanks again for joining me. It's been a great conversation as always, and look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Carl.